episode 4. So what I want to talk about today is audience building. A lot of different things I've been working on, writing wise. This is kind of the thing they keep falling back to, is audience building. And so I want to stick to practical things that models can actually use and make more money and be more awesome. And so audience building to me is like the thing that it's kind of the most overlooked and most taken for granted topic that for models at an individual level. Like, I think everyone gets that, like, yeah, that's what we're doing, and you know, a big part of camming is that, and maintaining those relationships with fans. Like, a lot of people say that, and are doing it. Like, if you're camming regularly, that's happening sort of as a byproduct just from doing it. And so the models that are more active on social media, they tend to be the ones that are taking that even more seriously. But like, even with those, I see a lot of just sort of like the understanding that audience building is important is just implied, and what's the point of me even talking about it? So I have a slightly different perspective on it. Like, hopefully you've caught on by now if you watched the earlier episodes, and if you don't, you're watching this one, you will. My thing is that I will just take something and tear it apart and beat it to death intellectually until it's just unpleasant. Like, so when I think of audience building, I don't see it as the thing that's just kind of happening when cam models work. I see it as like it's a worldview audience building as a cam model. It's a way of looking at everything that you're doing and saying, you know, does, you know, action A cause audience building to have a, you know, metric goes up or metric goes down? I sort of think of everything that way. It's a really helpful way to look at things, because, you know, it puts into perspective all the different behaviors that you will have, all of your habits, you know, every strategy and every approach. Like, we're analyzing it in terms of, is it making audience metric go up or audience metric go down? And, you know, there's a lot of things that you can do with that. But also, I think when you understand the sort of practical approach to building an audience, particularly on day one as a new performer, but at any stage, once you grasp audience and everything I'm going to say, once I've done this intro part, I think your sort of confidence camming goes up a lot. When I see models who don't have any audience, this is kind of the big problem that new models face, but even people who've been doing it for a while but just don't have like a really engaged fan base. Camming is really, really hard when that's the case. When you're having to go to press login and you don't know who's going to be in your room, you don't know where any of your spending is going to come from that day, it's the most stressful possible way to cam. And like, that's the situation everyone starts in, yes, but ideally, let's get out of that situation as quickly as possible, get to know some people, build customer relationships, and then continue to push things from there. The difference in having a handful of regular customers and not having that is tremendous in terms of like if you know you're gonna be able to make X dollar, right, per day or per month or whatever. Like, if you know this pay period I can pretty reliably I'm gonna have $1,000 that you know, those guys are in the bag. Okay, going from 1,000 to 3,000 in 2 weeks is a lot easier than going from 0 to 3,000, right? Going from 100 to 3,000 is a lot easier. Like, when it's at 0, you are fucked. And when I say you are fucked, what I mean is it's so hard to be able to like mentally, you know, motivate yourself and keep going when all you see is this like abyss of not knowingness in terms of like, how is this all going to work? So, and you know, that abyss, I'm going to use the term abyss a lot. I see, like, looking at camming, there's the path of light and the path of dark. And to me, the path of dark is like that. It's say you hate camming and you're doing it. That's the path of dark. Say you think camming's the coolest thing ever and you're doing it. That's the path of light. Good, bad. There's this duality. I think it's really important because when I interact with models who like, let's say things are going well, but like I don't even want to put anything past this is totally subjective. It's like if you define that you're enjoying camming and you like it, and you're getting the results that you want, good, you win. If you aren't enjoying camming, you don't like logging in, you hate the customers, you hate the site, you hate doing it, not good, right? And that's everyone's personal decision to make on their own. I'm not trying to convince people that it's great if they hate it. I know you're like, in my world, you're wrong, camming's cool, but like, we can disagree on that. You can think camming's not cool. That's your prerogative. If you think camming's not cool, I would recommend finding some other fucking job, just for your, you only live once. But where this is relevant, and hopefully I'm not already way too far off into the woods that I've lost everyone, which I probably am, is that basically every model I've worked with who's had a long career, they fluctuate between those two sides. Between, some days on cam, it's fun. They enjoy it. They're excited by it. It's cool. They make a lot of money. All good things is how they would describe it. Other days on cam, it fucking sucks. Every single person who comes into your room is annoying that day. You can't seem to make any money. Like it just sucks. When camming goes bad, it's so awful. And so people, when it goes bad, I'm not unsympathetic to saying, yes, all the customers are pieces of shit. Yes, they're all cheap. Yes, they suck. Yes, everyone that I've ever interacted with on cam is the worst. Like, I understand that the feeling towards that complaint, and like, I'm not even saying that's invalid. There are days when everyone is the worst. But the people who kind of get into that as like their habitualized way of thinking about camming, it just destroys audience building. This is why I'm talking about it here. Like, if you don't like customers at all, like if you resent all of them completely, if every time they want to do any show with you, you hate it, if you think that they're just the scum of the earth, like, you're gonna have a really hard time making intimate connections with these people and building meaningful relationships. Like, you just can't fake that much of that. And like, when you can't do that, have any sort of real relationship with the customers, care about them at all, you're only ever going to be able to get shows that are like, I just call them shallow shows, emotionally shallow. So they'll just be physically driven, jack-off shows, and that's basically it. That will be the entire career. What becomes possible when you're on the other side and you can actually build relationships with customers, and have them be mutually advantageous, everything becomes possible. And so like, this is where like a lot of the hard to explain camming situation comes from for me, because like, if you see an ad and you go, okay, live graphic sex cams, and then you click onto Chatterbait and you see the top 20 rooms and you're like, holy shit, like, whoa, like, and your whole perception of it is just that, okay, it's entirely to do with the size and speed of the sex toys you're able to bring to that. Like, it's just, that's what the work is, and you start on your first day mirroring that. Like, that's what the work will be. If you want to do live sex cams, and your whole focus is around just the graphic sex part, you'll attract an audience that will be totally into that, hopefully, and that will be the reality of your career on cam. And by the way, that's not a dig. I'm not saying sex is stupid and you should never get naked. I'm not dissing that at all. I'm simply saying that, having watched this play out a lot of times, the more sexuality that the performer brings to it, the more the audience reciprocates that. The more intellect that the performer brings to it, the more the audience reciprocates that. Whoever you are, whoever you appear to be when you're on cam, people, the whole, like, you just by existing and being on cam, you're filtering through thousands of people. The only people that are stopping are the ones that whatever they're witnessing when they click into your room grabs them somehow. And some amount of that is going to be physical, obviously, but there's also a lot more to it than that if you're willing to, like, believe me when I say that, and go for it. So now I know performers who are like, yeah, I get that it could be all that. I don't want shows where I'm talking to people and they're falling in love with me. I'd rather just have it be physical and I can go about my life. That's perfectly fair. And there's people who make a lot of money doing that. Please don't read what I'm saying as critiques about stuff. It's simply that an awful, like, the live sex cam side of it is so ingrained in the culture that, like, I have to be kind of strident in, like, saying, yeah, there's this other shit too. That goes on, because if you don't grasp the other shit, you really don't grasp any of the premises of why camming is cool. If you can only see it as a sex thing, right? Like, yes, human sexual expression is great. We love that. We want everyone on the site to feel free and empowered and all the great words that could describe that. Yeah, but people have other interests too that they would like to interact with someone around, and let's give them a chance to do that. That would be my take on it. And if you can grasp why someone would pay hundreds of dollars an hour to chat with you, I think you grasp everything about why camming is cool, and how to do it. And so, yeah, I still feel I'm saying it wrong, because, like, trying to elevate the point of view of, like, all the other things that are possible, I always feel like I sound like I'm anti-sex and a prude, and that I somehow have a negative opinion of people whose performances are primarily sexual. Like, it's just not that at all. I'll continue trying to explain it until I get it. And, like, by the way, the people who have long talking shows and make a lot of money doing that, to have tons of sex shows also. To me, the sexual performance side of it is so just, like, default. Like, yes, that's part of it. Yes, that's the main part of it in a lot of cases. But, like, if you grasp these other parts of it, your main part of it will be a lot bigger. Like, if you grasp how to get someone to talk to you for hours, you'll be able to get someone to spend a lot more money having sexual experiences with you also. So that, I'm going to leave it at that for now. So I want to get specifically into the brass tacks of audience building. But, like, grasping that, it helps. Okay, so all you need to do is believe that there's a possible way to get someone to pay to talk to you and not do sex stuff. If you've been camming for a while, you've certainly had that experience. And I've been having this interesting experience lately, which is a new thing for me. I'm having more conversations with already existing cam models, people who've been camming for a while that don't work with us. I've intentionally tried to boost my profile a little bit as an individual over the past year, let's say. And so I get DMs and stuff from people who are camming and say, what the hell is this bullshit thing you got going on? And, when I'm talking to someone from any other site and they want advice, like, I ask, how is it going for you? Like, what's the situation of camming for you? And how they describe camming tells me quite a lot about how things are. And the vast majority of people who don't work with me describe it as that sort of resentful sex cam attitude. And I'm so bummed whenever I hear that, because I'm like, if 100% of your shows are just them asking you to do a sexual performance for 5 to 12 minutes, and that's the end, I just, if you want to know why Pandora's numbers are so stupendously high, it's because that's part of what we do, and there's this whole other universe that we play in that like you just have to decide it exists and like bludgeon customers into going along with it, and they will, and they'll thank you for it. Like people are so basic. If I go into a strip club and they say we do lap dances for $20, or you can watch the girls on the stage and tip them, okay, that's what the menu says. I'm gonna say, all right, this place I can get a lap dance for $20, or I can watch a girl on stage and just play to tip. Got it. I live in Bangkok, and when you walk into a strip club in Bangkok, there isn't a menu, and while you can get some kind of lap dances, there aren't set prices. You can also get basically everything else. Like, depends on the bar that you're in, depends on the individual you're talking to. Go-go bars, strip clubs in Bangkok are almost always social clubs for sex workers to meet clients. And there's dancing and there's music and there's drinks and all that good stuff. But like, what the options are to do are more or less unlimited. What do the two people want to do? And that's very much the situation that camming has. It's a lot closer to prostitution than working in a highly regulated strip club in the United States, where what you're allowed to do, there's all these very specific rules that are being set. And if things went to their logical conclusion, it'd be breaking the law in America, because America has really stupid laws. That tangent about strip clubs and brothels aside, you can do anything. But when the customer doesn't know that, they'll just kind of look around at what everyone's doing and go, okay, I guess it's this. When I walk into a new venue, like, I don't know if this is a go-go bar that's, the girls will go home with you, or go upstairs with you, or go over behind the bar with you. Like, there are, on one street in Bangkok, you'll find 6 different versions of that. Some of them, they'll just sit and talk with you. Some of them, they'll sing karaoke with you. Some of them, they have special costumes and outfits on. Some of them, there's jacuzzis upstairs. On and on and on and on. And I don't really know that, because it doesn't say on the sign out front usually. So someone will say, how about this? And I'll either go yes or no. It's generally the customer thing. But once you teach a customer what's on offer, and they know that like the things that they want are on offer, they're a lot more likely to take you up on it. And so, specifically with what we see happen with camming, the things that are for sure on offer. Like, if you're a cam model, would you be open to spending a couple of hours in a private show, chatting with someone about, just the history of their life, where they grew up, where they're from, where they are now, what their trajectory of their life has been, what's important to them, what their values are? Would you be okay with doing that 3 hours a night? And then, let's say, 2 more times a week, every week for the next 2 years, conversations somewhat like that. Okay, are you cool with like 10% of that being an erotic, intimate, sexual video chat back and forth also? Can you manage that? Most people would go, yeah. That a 90-10 breakdown seems better than just 100% sexual all the time. If I could be making money doing more things, my capacity to sit and chat with someone on video is way higher than my capacity to do graphic sexual performances, right? Like, that wouldn't be so bad. Well, what would make a customer do that? And this is something I think a lot about. And the reality is, the easiest thing that would make a customer do that is you just fucking telling them, let's do that. Like, so many cam models just massively undervalue the influence that they have. Not even undervalue, are not aware whatsoever in the first place, the influence that you have. Let's change that right now in this video. The influence cam models can exert over customers is frightening. To me, like, the people will put themselves in these positions, the trust that customers will have from performers. And I don't think that trust is misplaced or anything like that, but like if you took some of the like mutual trust that goes on between performers and customers, and you explained it to someone that wasn't involved, they'd go, well, why would that guy ever say that? Like, the whole point of camming is being anonymous. Why would you say what district you represent, you know, or something like that, like stuff like that. But has anyone heard of you know, some high-profile person being exposed by a cam model? I expect it will come up someday, but it hasn't yet. But certainly high-profile people have interacted with cam models and let them know who they are. That I can vouch for. And so, yeah, it's just like that's the end result of building real relationships with customers. You're going to learn who they are, and that's cool. And in a lot of cases, they're going to learn who you are. And for some people, that you're not open to that part. Completely understand. But like, also, up to you. They'll tell you who they are a lot of times. Not always. There are models with customers who've been interacting for, you know, year plus, and they don't know each other's real identities at all, and never would based on the structure of their relationship. That's fine. Again, I'm not judging things here, just sharing some information about the world I actually work in. So, yeah, if you will say to people, let's do this, you will potentially find some takers. You know, if I had made Pandora modeling we're gonna find the next top country and western singer, and all of our ads were country and western singer, apply here, interested in doing country and western music, do you like Garth Brooks, and it was just that all the time, the likelihood that anyone would have ever turned on their webcam, got naked, like, it just wouldn't have logically gone there, and certainly not at the scale that we've been able to do it. Why? Because I didn't say, do you want to be a country and western singer in our ads and on our site and in every piece of messaging that we put out ever. And so I just want to encourage you as a performer to think a lot deeper about what are you communicating to your audience. What are you communicating to the people coming into your room that are going to potentially be a member of your audience? Put yourself sitting in their computer chair, looking at their screen and seeing you, seeing your name, seeing your picture, seeing your video feed, seeing what you're saying and how you're behaving, and ask yourself, like, well, what feelings are they having? What experience is going on with them when that happens? Well, they're typing this. What does that mean? Why are they typing it like that? Why are they not typing? What pace are they typing at, and why are they typing at that pace? What is their punctuation like, and why is it like that? All these tiny little details, you build a picture of someone from that. And if you would grant that, like, a lot of the reasons people are on campsites are that there is something that they feel is lacking in their world, and that this is a vehicle for them to find an answer to that, or to fill that void, then you realize that we're into very, very exciting, dark, fun territory in terms of what's possible. Because, like, wanting to pay someone to get naked and masturbate while you watch them jack off, or while you jack off, or whatever combination of it, but wanting to have that experience as a customer, to pay for, you know, whatever erotic experience, or emotional experience, or anything that you're paying for with this performer. The impulse to do that. If you will think a lot about that impulse of what their day is like that brings them to be sitting there and then doing that, you would just grant me that arousal in real time. Like, I have an erection and I have to do something with this, flirt free, this model's room, private show, hey, you know, boobs, let's do that. That can be it. It can also be much, much more than that. And, like, at the end of the day, the models who win the most clients, or the best clients, They aren't always the same. They have some ability to like reach through the computer screen into someone's, brain, heart, whatever, and make them feel whatever feeling was needed to get rid of that feeling of having a void. And like, that's kind of as specific as I can be about that, because it's different all the time. But like, they come to the site wanting something. And a lot of times it's not a conscious thing that they're writing down. I would like to have this happen. Customers are surprised on the site all the time. None of the customers that spend a lot of money on Flirt for Free ever intended to. None of them ever like got out of. Just leave it at that. None of them ever intended to. It wasn't part of the plan. It's something they discovered the site. They discovered a model on the site, and one thing led to another. And like generally, they enjoy it a lot. That's kind of the. When they don't enjoy it, they tend to stop spending almost immediately. And if they don't think they'll enjoy it again, then permanently. So what are they enjoying? Well, anything that a human being can do to quiet that sort of inner turmoil of feeling like we're not enough and that our lives are just meaningless catapults to the grave. Anything that you can do to like calm that, you'll do. Like, we crave nothing more than that. And so, particularly for people who have achieved objective success in the world, financially, for them to still feel that a lot of times, you go through life with a premise, if you're ambitious, that like once I achieve my ambitions, then those those demons will be quiet. And so once you achieve them, and they're not, you feel a little shortchanged. And how do you deal with success is a real issue that a lot of people go through. And what do a lot of them do? Private shows with cam models. And the ability for a cam model to offer like real companionship, to like that person sitting there, and guess what? They showed up just planning on, if you'll arouse them, they'll do a private show, and that will be the end of it. Go on about their lives. That was their intent. They don't plan on spending a ton of money on you and building a real relationship. They don't know they need that yet. And I would encourage you to, hint that maybe you're open to that. And like, be stealthy. That would be the second thing I'd say. I put out enough stuff, and I take credit for all of this, which is probably complete bullshit, but I do, in my own head, that like the concept of relationship building with customers has started to become routine in the cam world. Again, I don't think I invented that, although I will take credit for it. I'll take credit for anything that I think I can get away with. But there are plenty of, it's become enough of a thing that models are trying to do now that customers are, customers know all the tricks. Like, customers are way better at camming than cam models are. They take it way more seriously. And like, they can go through everyone's rooms and they know who makes them feel good and who makes them not feel good. And so they're making those decisions, and no amount of your willingness to talk to them for hours while they pay you will affect that up front. And like, absolutely any regular customer of a campsite is used to like being told by models that the model really cares about them and really wants to get to know them and that they're so interesting and all these other things. They won't fall for it. So when I say be stealthy, I sort of mean like kind of just do you, be you, and like perform in such a way that like the people who would be able to fall into having a more serious interaction with you know that you're up for it, and that you take the work seriously. So if you will grant me everything I just said, which you don't have to, but if you're granted some of the basic premises, and that to cause that to happen is good, then we can jump into audience building, the practical steps, let's say. So, always be building your audience. You really need to, like, if you just remember that line, always be building your audience, and that everything you do with work is audience building, and that you should always be doing that. Good. So I want to start at the very beginning. Someone coming into your room. I think I combined the word coming and going there. Classic. Someone coming into your room. So if you're live, the lowest ranked model on every site gets some amount of users per hour coming into the room. The number one ranked model on every site tends to get a bit more users per hour coming into their room. You, in general, would like as many people as possible coming into your room. More users, average per hour, visiting your chat room increases your opportunity potential for making sales. That's the first thing we need to do. So there are really two things I think about that affect this, outside of just your innate awesomeness that is why people are drawn to you at all on cam. One is your position on the site, just generally determined by rank. And you know, every site has sort of a different way. Flirt has the power score. It's heavily weighted. Like, the main thing that determines it is sales for the past 7 days, so total sales. Then number one had the most sales. They've introduced some other, like, non-direct sales things that will, like, give you boosts to your power score. One is customers sending you power score boosts. Other ones are like your lifetime credits, whether you're enrolled in sort of other things that they want you to be doing, and things like that. But that's beside the point for now. Where you show up on the site, at the top, it's just, that's where traffic goes. Okay. Being above, like, if you just go on a computer and click in the website and it loads, if you're above where they see, we call it above the fold. If you show up there, you get drastically more customers going into your room than if you're like one row below it. There's a huge drop off there. So a lot of people don't scroll at all. I've actually seen like successful models say, like on Twitter and stuff, to customers, make sure you scroll down sometimes. There's a lot of cool models on there, which is such a nice, wonderful thing to say. I forget who said that, or else I would mention them. But I don't know how big of an impact that will have to the millions of users of sites. I don't know that they all saw the tweet based on how many retweets it had. But that fold there, being below that, you're starting to drop off in how much traffic you'll get. It's not going to zero. Again, the bottom one has traffic. But the further down you go, the less likely that customers will scroll down and actually see you. And so, I don't think I'm probably informing anyone of that, but like, I hope just that you don't forget ever that the allocation of traffic hits the top of the site just tremendously. Like being in the top 10 versus being number 642, it's the difference of potentially thousands of people per hour coming into your chat room, and like that matters an awful lot. If it's determined in the past week, like working more hours in a week is going to give you a higher rank. We've prioritized rank for a long time. Realistically, if you're a very good cam model, even if you don't have a high rank, people will find you and you'll convert enough and you'll make sales. But life gets a little bit easier in terms of making money camming, the more traffic that you're getting to your room. And so the easiest way to do that is to the second easiest way to do that is to get your rank higher. The easiest way to do that is to have your profile picture stand out from the other profile pictures around it. And so whatever site you're on, you should look at the homepage of that site and say, what rooms are catching my eye? And I know like Chatterbait just does automatic stuff, so it doesn't apply to them. But most of the other sites you get to pick your main profile picture. That profile picture will determine a lot as to whether someone decides that they're going to click on you and look at you or not, obviously. And so experiment with different ones, you know, put up a profile and look at the site and say, is my profile picture catching my eye when I scan? And 100%, the only thing the profile picture matters at all is attention getting. Don't think for a second about like, what persona am I conveying to customers from that profile picture? What will they believe about me from that thin slice of the first second they see it? All that stuff. That does matter, but it matters so much less. Like if you have a nice butt and it's just a close-up picture of your butt, and that's the thing that gets way more people to click to your room, you know, maybe we're worried that the thin slices, that they think you're just nothing but a nice ass and that you don't have personality. We can correct for that later out of the 700 people per hour coming to your room very easily, versus if you had one where you're only getting 300 people per hour to your room. You always want more traffic first, and then we'll optimize from there. So the most important thing of your profile picture is attention grabbing. And if you can have the one that's most attention grabbing, that's really congruent with who you are, perfect, go for that. But if knockers is more attention grabbing, go for that. And it really depends on you know, where you're on the site, who you're showing up next to. You just want to look better than all the people around you, profile picture wise, and look better is catch people's eyes more. And so, you know, there's a lot to do with that it isn't like who's the most objectively beautiful or anything like that. Like, catching attention is different from just radiating beauty all the time. You know, if this was my profile picture, right? I'm not saying anyone should ever do this, but if this was my profile picture on Facebook, and you're scrolling through a bunch of profile pictures, which you don't ever do, but if that was my profile picture on the campsite, there we go, forget Facebook, you'd notice that. And like, by the way, here's why you don't do that profile picture. Everyone will notice that and go, that person's a douchebag, and no one will ever want to talk to you. You'll still get traffic, no one converts at zero, but like, it's a bad idea. It would get a lot of attention, and so I don't know why I brought that up as an example, but I think that would be one that the attention, the thin slice would actually matter, maybe enough. A lot of people would be coming to call you a douche. But something like that, right? The symbol I just made with my hands has meaning, that captures people. And so there's a lot of other things that you can do that will mean something and will capture people's attention. Like having just doing something weird that is, you know, it's the purple cow concept in marketing. From Seth Godin, like something that you'd notice if you were driving down the street and there was a purple cow. You don't see a purple cow that often. Similar with like the black swan, although that means a bit more. You want to find a way for you to be that, for your profile picture to stand out. I've made enough of a point on that. Make good profile pictures, have your rank be high, and you're the first. That's the fire hose of audience building. The only other thing with that is your hours online. If you're having 500 users per hour to your room, unique, and you're online 10 hours a week, that's 5,000 people a week who are seeing you. If you're online for 30 hours a week, that's 15,000 people who are seeing you. You want all of those numbers to be, you know, as high as they can, because that makes the numbers better. So, yeah, those three things are how you, in the very, very early days, are set yourself up to build an audience. And you know, the hours per week thing, I want to overstate the importance of that. Or I don't think I can overstate the importance of that, much as I might like to. People, regular users of the site, care a lot about how often a model is online. If the campsite of their choice is what they do from 7 to 11, 5 nights a week, and you're not there most of those nights, they will never care about you. They will never spend a dime on you. You will never matter to them. The main way models lose clients is that it's not being online enough for them to be satisfied in the relationship with you. It's the same thing that happens with Twitch streamers and gamers. Like, those, because they have giant audiences compared to us, the big ones. I hear them say, like, if they take 2 days off, they'll lose 8% of their subscribers or something. It's the same thing happens with gaming. You just maybe don't notice it as much because people aren't all subscribed to a monthly billing thing. But those effects are happening. You need to stream very, very regularly, consistently, so that people believe you to be reliable, for them to even be comfortable having, being into you, like being a fan of you. Nothing's more annoying than starting to like something a lot and then not losing access to it. Earl Sweatshirt put out a couple of really, really great albums. And he fucked off for 4 years, and I was like, man, why isn't Earl Sweatshirt putting out any more music? I like Earl Sweatshirt. And then he just put out an album, and I listened to it, but I wish he would have put out 5 more. Even if they weren't that good, like, at least he would have been there for me, and he wasn't. So, fuck you, Earl Sweatshirt. But that experience happens with customers on the site and models all the time. Like, they don't know who you are. So if they, are doing shows with you nonstop for 3 days, and then you're a ghost for the next 2 months, they're heartbroken. And you're an asshole. Just don't do that. You need to cam consistently. Customers need to be able to expect something. They need to know what they can expect from you, and hopefully that what they can expect from you is suitable to them. This doesn't mean you have to cam 12 hours a day, 7 days a week, and you can never do anything in your life besides camming. To me, I look at it as being engaged with the work versus not being engaged with the work. If 10 to 15 hours a week is like, that's the max you can cam because you got other shit going on and you can't just be online all day, okay, let people know that. And spend that hour a week extra while you're not on cam with communication type things. Be messaging people the times that you're going to be online. Ask them if they can be there at those times, or if your time's flexible but limited, then say, would it be best if I'm online at 6, if I'm online at 8? Having those conversations, that's enough. Putting in that effort is enough. You can be very successful without camming completely full time. By doing shit like that. That's the first part of having a relationship with customers. They have to be able to know what's up with you. If you disappear for long periods of time with no word, like, they're going to be worried about you. They're going to be wondering about you all the time. And worry will just turn into annoyance very quickly. Every very regular customer of the site has had the experience of a new model comes on, they see them, they decide they're in love with them, and 3 days later, no one's ever seen that model since then. Not because they were kidnapped by the customer, because that person just said, this isn't for me, and I'm off. Which is fair. You can quit camming. So that's okay. But if you're not going to quit camming, this is maybe a point that I can make once and never have to say again. If you're going to continue camming, that's where my advice applies. If you decide to quit, okay. No further conversation is necessary about that. That's your decision. I work with clients on the concept that as long as they haven't said you're fired, they haven't quit yet. So there we go. Profile, that fire hose. So step 2, once there are people coming into a room, which means you've logged in. The next step to that is converting those users from being in your room to spending money. Brilliant, right? Who could have saw that being the next step? I think if I just had to, take a random sampling of performers, people don't take this part seriously enough. And by that I mean, this is again with the audience building. That's what you're trying to do. You want people to spend money on you, and you're trying to get the people coming to your room to do that. Yes. So I'm just going to go with here's how. And I think this is different from what I see a lot of people doing. If they've clicked into your room, and so there's basically two ways people come to your room. One is they click on your face and show up in your room. That's the most common thing that's happening if it's a registered user. The other one is the site has allocated them to your room. This happens a lot more if it's just random traffic, like an affiliate traffic comes to the site and it has the landing page of someone's room. It just spins around and spits them into someone's room. Algorithms. So you lose a lot more of those, and lose isn't the right word here, but like unregistered users filtering through your room. Everyone knows that's just coming and going. That's fine. Registered users coming in, they're usually evaluating you somewhat. Now sometimes they're just clicking through room to room to room to room to room, and they're there for 2 seconds, and there wasn't anything you could have done to slow them down, outside of being a completely different person, which isn't on offer. But once they've hung out for a second, we should assume, whether this is true or not, we should assume they're evaluating you somehow. They're looking at you. And you have their attention for that split second. It's not necessarily that their audio is on. And it's not necessarily the case that there's anything you can do to keep that attention. The speed with which they're moving through rooms is 10 seconds a room, and then on to the next one. And maybe there was no song and dance that you could have done that would have got them to stay. Okay. But still, we have to think a lot about that, because probably there is some song and dance. Maybe not for the individual, but for the 100 individuals, what song and dance you're doing in that first 10 seconds that they're in your room matters a lot, right? So if you take that sort of awful person that's just going into a model's room, not saying anything, judging them, and going, is there anything of worth here? And going, no, next. What an aggressive thing, right? That's what's happening. Now, it's not as malicious or anything like that. They're just, clicking on things. But understand that 10 seconds of like looking at the video and going, do I want to stay here? That's an evaluation customers are making. Well, every time they go into a new model's room, they go, is this at all interesting to me, right? And so what I want to do is kind of put myself into that customer's perspective and just let you know what I think they're thinking while that happens, and what I think as the customer I value as like general things that the customers are into with Performer's Room. So the instant technical capacity assessment matters a lot. How nice is this video feed that I'm looking at? And if the rooms that have low quality webcams, bad internet connections, things like that, are also like the biggest, simplest one to fix. Rooms that are poorly lit and it's too dark, and those let's call them logistical, technical things. Those matter a lot, and so if the performer's doing that thing where, like, let's say you're working at night, so you have your lights off in your room, you're lit up only by your laptop's backlight. This is the worst image anyone could ever have. But you see people on CamPlace doing this, mind-blowing. And they're sort of laying on their bed, and so their face is like right next to the cam, and it's like this one. And that's all you see is this sort of disembodied head lit up by the blue light of a computer screen, and typing like this. There are a lot of customers are going to click to the next room. That's what the analytics of the site would suggest. And so, yeah, don't discount how that is of paramount importance, how things look. A setup like this is like fine, but like, if I kill the lights, you can't really see me at all. just thousands of people just move past. It just destroys that instant engagement, right? So that's the first thing that I always want to think about with someone and say, for every 100 people that are coming in, how many are getting past that initial evaluation of do I want to stay or do I want to go? And if they just immediately bounce, they went. And that's happening all the time, right? We're looking at ratios here. So what ratio are staying? What percentage out of 100, which is implied by saying percentage, how many are staying? And so everyone has different numbers on that. But almost everyone, if you haven't sat down and thought about that a lot, has room for improvement. And so the easiest thing is make your setup really good, have your lighting be good, have a good quality webcam. I think I said have good lighting, and have good internet. Have all that stuff be stable, and right away you start having higher engagement rates from customers instantly. A light switch can double someone's engagement rate, and so can a $60 cam. And so when you grasp that, like, if you double your engagement rate, if you're having 10 people per hour stop and talk to you instead of 5, do you think you'll get more shows from doing that? Yes, you will. And you know you will. That's of course how it works. So do that. The second thing is, which is really the first thing, but this thing can be messed up by having a terrible setup. The second thing is they're just primal guttural reaction to your face or your body or whatever they're seeing. Like, do you do it for them? Do you catch their eye? Do you catch their attention? And your personal presentation can affect this. The whole sweatpants, hair tied, chilling with no makeup on, Drake line, great line. And gals, yep, that is when you're the prettiest, most beautiful for sure. 100%, and I'm into that. But it turns out that the marketplace of customers on the site aren't, because they seem to click into rooms where more effort has been put into the physical appearance of the performer than other ones. Just how it goes. You seeming to have made an effort when you're on cam increases the engagement rates from customers, makes them more willing to make an effort. And I don't think I need to berate people on makeup. One, I would seem like a jerk, but two, that's not anything that isn't obvious to most everyone. But in terms of thinking about like what I said with a profile picture, that attention is the thing that matters. Grabbing it, that's the only thing that matters right here. Can you get them to stay? And so you having sort of a more flamboyant appearance, something more unique, whatever that might be for you, that'll catch people. And so like just what I sort of say of like, just whatever your best version of you that you can throw together is, go for that. And so it's worth thinking about like, what is the right hairstyle and look for you? What is the right, if for guys, how do you look best with your hair? What about facial hair? What about are you tan or do you need to tan? Body hair, grooming, all sorts of things like that. They matter, but there isn't a right answer. It's not that beards do better than no beards, or if you're a girl, being in lingerie is better than wearing normal clothes. No, there is no objective right answer. It's entirely you're deciding what your the work of art that is you on cam is going to be, and making it cool. And I say to people all the time, like, you could probably log in a trash bag and make it work. And the answer is you could. A lot of you could pull off wearing a garbage bag on cam, but you'd be pulling it off not because that's great fashion or anything, but because you just see people wearing garbage bags on cam. And like, once people start wearing garbage bags on cam all the time, once this hits the interwebs, then that will probably become less effective. So there you go. Let's stick with that. I'm simply saying that the person evaluating and going, am I into this or not? Seeing that you've made an effort makes them more likely to say yes, but also you sort of looking unique makes them more likely to go, because guess what? What a lot of us want in a deep, dark, real thing is something different. And so someone who looks different is compelling. Like goth girls do pretty well on the site, like legit goth, like powdered skin, dark hair, dark makeup, all of it, all the way, black everything, black room. Like that's a popular look. Customers gravitate to that. Now, I think customers are stereotyping the individuals who appear that way a lot into like, we'll be able to do darker shows and stuff. So if you're into not doing dark stuff, maybe think about that. But it's certainly people will engage more with that. Like in a way, being goth is an opinion that you're communicating to customers, and that some people will share it. Things like that matter a lot. And so, yeah. And by the way, I recognize it's really hard for a lot of people to make this kind of self-evaluation, but like the way to get better at that is to click through lots of other models' rooms. You be the creepy customer scrolling and saying, what about this room? Notice where you're stopping. Like, what about this room make me want to look at this person more? What are they doing? What's the features of what's going on here? What's the camera angle? What are they wearing? What is their activity that they're doing? If anything, what am I feeling? Like, write all that stuff down. And that's a really good way to learn to get better at this. But I'm telling you, like, the first thing that you need to get good at is increasing that initial engagement rate. Because people are going to be coming into your room. You have to focus very hard on making them stay. Because once they stay, like, that almost everything will flow after that without any effort. It's not entirely true, but like when people have that part down, when you have a good presentation and you're good at hooking people to come into your room, private shows are going to happen naturally. Are there things you can say and do to tweak it, make it more? Yes, that's the next step we're going to get to. But like camming's easy when you have a ton of engaged customers in your room being excited and interacting with you. It's not hard to get private shows. It's not hard to do anything. But the hard thing is creating the environment in which that takes place. You'll click into a successful model's room, and a lot of people will just assume that like, oh, well, she's hot, or he's, in really good shape, and so that's why they have all these customers, and like, oh, I'm inferior. The reality is, all the steps I just listed, they're doing a better job of than other people. And what's making people click into someone's room and what's making people stay, it is how hot you are is such not an indicator of how good that is, how good that metric is going to be. It's not the ultimate determiner. You only need to be sufficiently attractive, and then everything after that is skill. And the skill of getting people to stay in your room, first one to learn. So I'm always hesitant to even say what you should be doing outside of the like technical stuff, because like it's different for every single model. So like, be the most awesome version of you. It's the great advice. The insurance word that I will say is engaging. And here's what I'm couching it. If you're a happy, positive, high energy vibe person that's just bubbly and that's just how your personality is, being that way will be very compelling to customers. If you're not that way at all, if you're a curmudgeonly, folded arms, I don't want to talk to anyone, I just want to sit here, read books, smoke cigarettes, not socialize, not leave the house, not even open the curtains, like me, then pretending to be all, woo, like, will be disingenuous. Not that authenticity is particularly important, but like, you won't be good at doing that. You'll find it a lot easier to just be natural how you are, and then figure out how you are maps to provoking intimate and erotic emotions in strangers using video chat. That's how I always want everyone to start. And so, if you're crazy, be crazy. If you're cool, be cool. You're all cool. You're all probably a little crazy. you can make all that work, but like the easiest way to differentiate yourself and to distinguish yourself from other models and to be unique and compelling to customers is to just be yourself. You're not allowed to just say be yourself, because you're not saying anything you say that everyone already knows that, so I'm gonna have to say a lot more. But that was the point that I was making, that if you're big smiles and stuff all the time, go for it. That will work. If you're more of a serious, reserved, quiet person, that can work also. The issue comes with engagement. So it's easier to be the happy person. That will create engagement with customers just by being that. It takes more work if you're more like this, naturally. In some ways, you'll have to step out of that a bit, but it doesn't mean you have to become a cheerleader. Like, you can be held back a bit and also open and engaging with people. The tone in which you speak, how much you speak, how long your sentences are, all those things they differentiate based on the natural persona of a performer. You can be very sexy, very seductive, very compelling, not saying many words, not talking not talking really fast, not doing all that. Like, you can, like, a lot of times saying less is more sexy and more seductive, and so you have to kind of figure out how that is. But what you have to do, no matter whatever side of the spectrum you fall on in terms of energy and vibiness and all that, you have to be provoking customers. Like, it's to consider it just warfare against them, and that you are, one, getting them to stay when they click into your room, and then two, getting them to feel something, anything. Take your pick, make them feel something. You have to kind of poke at them. You have to kind of, throw rocks at them, and tell them to come play. Because if you're not sending out those invitations, they'll just assume you don't like them, and that'll be it. So yeah, you need to be reaching out and grabbing them, and you can do that in an infinite number of ways. But that's the thing that has to be happening: reach out and grab them. And so words will take place in this. Saying hello is a good way to start things. In a lot of cases, some models do this, some models don't. I think early on, you should probably say hello to people as they come in. If you can ask them, a question that they could answer, that's a good start. But what that question you ask is super important. How are you is usually a bad one. But anything that gets them, anything that's just boring, anything that gets them to respond is a good start. So past that, conversation takes place. Once you've hooked them and they're in conversation, that's a win. Like, recognize you've just increased the value of this lead. That's conversion number one. That's actually conversion number two. Conversion number one is them coming into your room. Conversion number 1.5 is them staying for a second. Conversion number two is them taking some action, which is them typing. If they just go right to a private show or tip, that's fine too. We'd count that, but usually it's some form of interaction with them typing is what takes place. Once someone's typing, you just won. You got it. How many people per hour are you getting to stop and type in your room? Say anything, even if it's a dumb thing. That's an important metric. As many as you possibly can, it's good. And so the next stage of that is, from the first thing they say, how many people are you then actually able to engage in a conversation that lasts for a period of time? How many are you going from hi to, tell me everything about your entire life that's ever happened? How far are you getting down that road? You always lose people at every stage of this conversion funnel, but a lot of cam models, there's parts of the conversion funnel where they are just useless. Like your numbers are so bad at that part. And then you have no awareness of it, that everything else is completely fucked to do with your performance. You're not making money, like camming is super, super hard, customers suck, everything's the worst, and it's because your lights weren't bright enough. And so the number of people that were stopping and talking to you per hour were 4 instead of 11. And had you had that 11, you would have found those 2 or 3 customers that would have made the hour worthwhile. You would have been making $40 an hour instead of 3. Tiny things like that. But much, much bigger, people will have a good setup. Everyone understands that's important. They'll do an okay job of being engaging and talking and getting people to stop in their room and interact with them. And then they won't do a good job of the next part. This part, where you secure their patronage. Like, this is where we're going to make a sale. Okay, we're talking now in my chat room. It's game on. It is me versus you, pal, to see who can win this interaction. And if I win, it means we both get what we want. And if you win, it means you got what you want from me. And also, it's mutually advantageous, so it's kind of a win-win, and it's maybe not exact warfare, but like, there's a war going on internally with them. They're having to decide, do I want an experience here? Do I want to interact here? Am I hungry? Do I want to go eat? Am I tired? Do I want to go sleep? Do I want to watch something on Netflix instead? Or should I just watch YouPorn and jack off and go to bed? Blah, blah, blah. Insert any number of things. There's that war going on with them. Like, am I going to give this individual the time of day at all? And if they're talking to you, it means they're going, maybe. Let's see. And the only real flaw in what I'm saying here is that it's giving way too much credit to the broad spectrum customer base, meaning a bunch of people will talk to you that are just a complete waste of time. I'll cover that in a minute. Everything I do and I think about is optimizing for the ideal customers that you want to have interactions with, right? I don't really care about people who are just making noise in your chat room. And I'll talk about how to distinguish them in a minute, but everything is towards that person, the person who you want to have the connection with, those clients that you desperately want to have because they'll make your career successful and they'll make it way more enjoyable and fun compared to the other. I'm only thinking about that guy, let's say, all the time with everything. The profile pictures, what is that guy like? What your presentation is, how's that guy gonna go? Yeah, this person's my style. The conversations that you're having, what's gonna make the guy go? More of this, please. And what's going to make them go? Private show. So what happened in those first few minutes of an interaction are very important. You should assume that if they stopped in your room, saw you, decided to engage with you, whatever feeling customers need to feel, like in their gut, in order for everything else to work, that's the key thing. They have to feel it when they look at you, like just like that. If they don't, there's no sales strategy or gambits or hijinks that we can pull that will get them to press spend. You should assume that they felt it if they did all that engagement, because if they didn't, they would have been one of the ones that clicked along. So they felt it, they're into you, they like you, and now they're speaking to you. Okay? All you have to do is not blow it. It would be a fun way to think about it. You've already got, the sale is already made. Now you're just negotiating the specifics. And okay, so if that's what we're doing, if you'll believe me in this little fantasy world I've created where every time a customer is talking to you, they're about to spend money, what are the specifics we're negotiating? Okay, I'll give them to you. Are they going to spend money? Would be the first one. You're going to have to figure that out with words. And a lot of people are uncomfortable with that. If they were to spend money, then what will happen? That's the main specifics. And the answer to that will depend a lot on, are they going to spend money or not? And so a lot of different strategies come into play at this stage. But like the one that's most important is that has to be the interaction and where things are going. Anything else is ludicrous. If you like just chit-chatting with people forever, you're wrong, you McWrongenstein. No, like it's not a chit-chat and then wait and see what happens. It's not a everyone can talk about whatever the hell they want all the time. It's not a public forum for people to espouse their political, religious, sexual views. Your chat room is a sales funnel for you as a camp model to make money. Anyone who is not serving that purpose should not be there. And anyone who's not, potentially going to be involved, again, they're just consuming bandwidth. So to me, the reality is, of all the 100 people standing there looking at you, or sitting there looking at you, the level of potential engagement that they have versus real engagement that ends up happening is always a lot higher. There's always a lot more potential that customers could do and might do and would do if properly motivated to than actually happens. I know the best webcam models in the world, they don't get 100% of the potential out of their audiences. It's just impossible to. Like, it's impossible to know all the things going on in people's heads, in people's lives, in people's pants. You can't keep track of that for one customer, let alone dozens or hundreds. So nothing will be perfect, and that's completely fine. That's not the goal. But to understand that that's the case, that there's this sea of potential spending, potential activity with customers in your room when there's people engaged with you, that you're trying to navigate through to find the best course with, that's important. Because it changes completely how you look at camming if you grasp that. You could go down Avenue A to Avenue Z, and each of those avenues is a customer. And with each customer, there's an infinite number of avenues you could take with them. There's a right and a wrong way to get to maximum activity. And we don't know what it is. Like, you're just feeling through in the dark to try and figure it out. I don't know what it is. You don't know what it is. They don't know what it is. It's a process of discovery. We find out along the way. But having seen that process play out a lot of times, I do have some guesses about some of the things that are important. So just engaging customers as customers seems to work a lot better than treating them like humans. And at this stage, at the initial first interaction stage, treating them like customers instead of friends, lovers, anything. Treating them like customers, like that their potential value to you is that they're going to engage in a transaction that will cause you to make money. Treating them like that is very helpful to them and to you. Because one, any real customer of the site knows that for anything cool to happen that they like, spending has to happen, right? You don't get a lot of spending resistance from regular customers of the site. In first engagements and stuff. You do. So it's not a zero thing, but it's maybe 20% or something. Customers understand that they're expected to spend money if they want things. And again, when I'm saying customers, I mean the actual spenders of the site, not all users in your room. All users don't understand that. And there's plenty of customers who want to spend the the maximum least amount of money possible to stay relevant on the site, to where people aren't banning them from their rooms and stuff. Sure, but like, people understand that it's a pay-to-play thing. Just you don't have to think about that. You don't have to worry about that. And I think a lot of models do and hesitate. So just get that shit out of here. It's a pay-to-play environment, and everyone that's there to play is aware of that. And the people who are even attempting to play without paying, toss them, bounce, gone, bye. And you won't lose a cent from doing that. Like, it just doesn't really happen that you get good spenders from the site that are like trying to needle things out of performers without spending money. And if they are, fuck them. So treating them like customers means that we're going to have conversations that a provider of a service and a customer would have. That's how we're going to start things out here. And we can be friendly, we can be flirtatious, we can tell jokes, we can tell stories, we can do all those things while this is happening. And we can even pretend we're just having a conversation about like, how are you tonight? How are things going? You having fun? Yeah, cool. Seeing any good movies? You can say all those things. As long as you know, and they know, that what's happening is a purveyor of a service speaking to a customer. At this point, to pretend they're not is disadvantageous. It just will lead you into having a lot more conversations that don't lead to any money. Yeah, in this first 10 minutes or so of interacting with someone, you know, I just think it's overwhelmingly the best to be kind of lasered in on, hey, do you want to have some fun? Do you want to have an experience? What experience do you want to have? What brings you here tonight, today, whatever time it is? What are you in the mood for? What do you like? Who are you? What's happening? You know, here's what I am. That sort of conversation to figure out if, like, yes, there's the initial attraction. Okay, well now if we pursue this, will we have a good experience together? That's what a customer needs to learn at that point. If they're talking to you, they're attracted. Okay, I see a lot of girls that are attractive. I go, ooh, she's attractive. See plenty of guys that are attractive. I go, ooh, he's attractive. Whether or not that is going to lead to some awesome experience occurring, it seems overwhelmingly, statistically, the answer is no. It won't lead to any experience. They're just going to walk past and go about their lives, and I will continue walking about mine. But if I'm actually talking to someone, and I go, wow, this person's really attractive, how do I get from that to having the experience with them that I want to have? It's a long, long road. Even, by the way, if that person is a professional sex worker and I'm in a brothel, like, it's not like just the willingness to engage in some activity does not mean that that activity is going to be good, or enjoyable, or for any parties. You need to make customers believe that the experience with you will be the experience they might hope to have. The easiest way is to figure out what experience they might hope to have, and then say, yes, it will be that. And then live up to that expectation. But making them believe that they'll have the experience they want if they engage with you is that first 10 minutes. And so by treating them as a customer, you're showing them respect in a way of like, I know the situation, you know the situation, I know you know the situation, you now know I know the situation. We don't have to have any false pretenses or anything. What do you want? And let's make it happen. That's a very, very compelling offer. And so it's doubly compelling in that the type of sex worker, let's say, that would convey that to a customer right away inspires confidence in the customer. So when you're on cam and you say, you put that frame out there, I know what's up, you know what's up, what are you after, let's make it happen. You inspire confidence in that they go, this person knows what's going on. They know the structure of what's occurring. They know to some extent why I'm here. And they're not going to bullshit me. Great. That's what we want. We want a camel that's not going to bullshit me. That's what the customer's feeling. And once they feel that, the only thing that's necessary to have all sorts of magical, awesome things happen is that you've made them comfortable enough that they will like ask for what they want and ask for what they're into. And that's such a murky, murky world because what makes them comfortable. So it's a real vibe, emotions-based thing. And some customers are more comfortable sharing and will share instantly. Other customers will share something that's not a real thing that is what they want. Like, that's where we just get into wading into the deep waters. But still, if you've gotten to this point where they don't think you're going to bullshit them, and they are aware of the transactional nature of things and that everything's on the table, you're so far ahead of the game. And like, consider that interaction. So they come in, say hi, you say hi, and now we are in a transactional conversation. We're part of a sales funnel now of leading this to a private show. And over the next 2 to 15 minutes, that's going to happen. Or they will be excluded as a lead. Like, they'll be pushed back and you'll move to the next client. That's just getting into that funnel where you're actually leading towards a private show. It's something a lot of models miss with a lot of the customers. Where are you starting the conversation at? So a lot of people started as, I want to establish rapport, and then once we have rapport and there's conversation happening, then maybe we'll dial things. I know people are doing this consciously, but a lot of people are going for that rapport, for let's be nice to each other and go from there. But like, I'll tell you again, as research for work, I will go sit alone in strip clubs and assess all of the people, and I'll give them money and things, of course. That would be rude not to, but like, I'll assess like what's catching my attention here and what conversations are happening that are making me go, huh, cool. And then I'll take notes and I'll come back and I'll record this. And so the nicing your way into it makes me, in my particular case, is less provocative than something else. Yelling at me is not a great strategy. I kind of tune that out. But sort of looking seriously and longingly at me, that'll do it. So again, this is the part. Not again. I'm saying this part for the first time. This is the part where who you are as a person comes out on cam, and the customers that connect with who you are as a person are going to be the ones that find you. Like, this is the early thing that happens where, if I know a model really well, I have a pretty good idea of who their audience is and who their fans are, and like what those people are like and what they value, because like they find each other. If a performer is like really emotionally investing into camming and like is falling in love with all of their clients, the types of clients that they're ending up with are the clients who that's what they need. They're doing the exact same thing. The types of models who are cool guys that work out a lot and are really into fitness and like talking about fitness, they end up having customers who value that. Like, you'll find the people with your shared values if you'll share what your values are. So boom, start from a transactional point of view, and treat them like customers, and then once they've proven themselves to be customers, then everything is an option at that point. And so I say this because ask for a private show or ask for a tip or ask them to spend money is something that should be happening pretty early in a conversation. It shouldn't be the first thing that you say, but like it can happen a lot earlier than most people tend to do it, and too soon is much better than too late. There's a vibe and a feeling that the customer has when they're coming into your room, and like that'll fade over 20 minutes. Or it will ratchet up over 20 minutes. And like once it's ratcheted up, like once someone's turned on, like you have to, turn the key. Like you have to make it happen. Start, go. Or else they get agitated and frustrated and it doesn't work. And some people need you to say, start a private show. Some people need you to say, pay me. Some people need you to say something that makes them do it. They need you to encourage them to spend the money and to let them know it's okay to spend the money, or to let them know that they don't get to keep you any longer if you don't spend the money is often enough to make it work. But that's all you're doing in open chat. You're just trying to engage in transactional sales conversations to get into private shows. And then things start to exist. Outside of that happening, I don't know, I don't see any value in other things in open chat that are not leading to adding someone to your audience. And so I consider them added to your audience once they've spent money. And keep in mind that like you're having this transactional conversation with dozens of people. Most of them are lying to you and saying, oh, I can't right now, my roommate's here, I'm on the way home to the office, I'm in the room, I don't get paid till Friday. Like, assume everything to do with them saying, I can't do it is a lie, and you'll come out ahead. But like once you've made the, hey, will you spend money on me pitch, which you should be making in every single conversation, if they say no, and no is anything but yes, and then you leave them. Like you can leave them with the door open and say, okay, talk to me when you have money, or talk to me when you want to spend money, or I'll be here if you decide you want to do a private show, or I'm brokenhearted that you're unable to currently do a private show with me. I want nothing more in the world than to have that experience with you. You seem like someone that I could really, fall in love with and spend the rest of my life with. But since you can, I understand, and no pressure. Unfortunately, I'm just going to stop talking to you because that's kind of how this whole thing works, Say that. Wow, wasn't that a great line to like use on customers to ice them when they're not going to spend on you? Put a lot of creativity there if you want. Like the better you get at rejecting people who say they're not going to spend, the more people will come back and spend, because their first no is always a lie. No doesn't mean no. People lie to you about that. No means fight me harder to get me to yes in the context of camming. What you all do in your intimate relationships in real life is your own business. So yeah, but you have a transactional conversation, push for the conversion, say, let's do a private show. Say that very creatively also. And if they say no, can't, don't wanna, say, cool, I'm gonna get back to work then. It was nice talking to you. If you ever feel like taking me up on the services I offer, boom, I'm your individual human being. To make it gender neutral. So the length of time that can take place in, and by the way, here's why this is important. Sometimes great customers convert after 21 days. Like it doesn't all have to happen on the first, hey. A lot of times it's going to. A lot of times if it doesn't, the overwhelming majority, if it doesn't, it's not going to. But 10% of your people who don't convert on the first time might convert on the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh time. That does not mean at all that you spend tons of time continuing to talk to them. Like if 10 minutes is your length of time, or 5 minutes is your length of time that they can have a chat before they've converted and spent money in some way, then you can go, okay, you're on ice. And put them out of your mind completely, but like they might pop back to your room a couple more times, not say anything, and then on the 19th time they come into your room, they're just charged that time and they do a private show. So like, don't take the attitude of, if you're not going to spend money on it right now, fuck off and go die, because then your downstream effects of those people converting will be lower. A lot of big spenders started out spending $1 once, and then couple dollars. Sometimes, like we see this in our affiliate account, we will see a user that months 1 through 9, it was spending $20 there. 5 weeks later, they made another purchase for $10. 11 weeks later, they made another purchase for $40. 2 weeks after that, they made a purchase for $100, and then they made a purchase for $100 twice a week, every week since then, and it's been months and months and months. That's a very natural way that a customer progresses. That someone just signs up and spends 10 grand is extremely rare. That'll also happen with you, with your customers. That doesn't mean that everyone who tips you 10 credits is eventually going to tip you 10,000 credits. And it doesn't mean that everyone's even a potential big spending customer. Like almost everyone has real financial limits of what they want to or will spend on the site. And that's all fine. You don't need everyone to be, to spend $1 million to have them be a valuable customer. You want to figure out what they're into and what is going to be, what's going to be the best version of this relationship for that customer, and then make it that. You'll know with yourself what your standards are, what will work for you. Like if there's someone that says, I'm going to do a private show for 10 minutes a week, that's all I can afford, and I'm going to spend 8 hours a day in your chat room talking to you nonstop and expecting instant responses, you might have to say, no, can't do that, sorry. I'm not offering that. And that will happen. And by the way, these conversations don't always happen where you're negotiating prices and spending habits with customers. But it's something that you can think about and consider, because they do happen some amount of the time. That window of initial engagement to conversion is where an overwhelming amount of the skill that can be developed happens. The most simple thing is just asking for the sale. You get way more people that will say yes than if you don't. Overwhelmingly. So just ask. You should be asking every single potential customer if they will be your customer. And then all of them, that the answer is yes, it will be yes. And maybe that's 6 out of 100 of people that you're having conversations with. If you don't ask, it will be 3 out of 100 if you're really, really, really lucky. Plenty of people might want to do a show, might even be into it, might be a yes and stuff, but if they're not being pushed into it, they're not going to do it. Maybe it's that they need you to push them into it because that's the only way they'll feel confident that you really want it. And if you don't really want it, they don't want it. A lot of it's that. But maybe it's just, I think I might do it. If they ask right now, I probably would. If they don't, I might just go get a bite to eat and go to bed. That also happens a lot. And so ask. And guess what? Over 6 months, you'll get a lot better at timing that ask. You'll be able to sense when the time to hit and say, take me private is, and people will do it. But you'll still be way ahead of the game if you're blindly asking nonstop. Then if you're not asking, people like, you just have to ask, right? The guy who walks up to every girl and says, hey, will you have sex with me? And does that 500 times a day, gets laid a whole lot more than the guy who just sits at home in his room and doesn't offer any invitations to anyone for sex. Right? And so ask. Just ask. And assume that the right way to do the transactional conversation is to make it a fake real conversation. It's actually a transactional conversation. And saying things like, what brings you to town, or what brings you into my room, and stuff like that. Asking questions that you're hinting at the root of what are they there for, what do they want. Those all tend to be good. And that can sound a lot like a real human conversation happening. But it's not. There's this other thing happening where they're mentally jousting to decide what's going to happen. So once the conversion's been made, the person's now a part of your audience. That's where I consider it. As soon as they've spent money, they're in your audience now. And that's a huge thing. That's a huge deal. You should be really, 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 really excited that happened, because everything good happening on cam relies on something like that happening. That exact thing. Converting someone from raw traffic into spending money on you. That's what you want. So when that happens, recognize all the work that just happened to make that happen. Right? It was hard. They had to, both of you, they had to open their computer, log in, go to the site, see you, click on you, go into your room, not just click to the next one, decide to interact with you, decide to have a conversation, decide that they liked you enough to press a button and start a private show. you also had to be involved in a lot of that. It's a lot of work. And now the reward. The transaction occurs. But like, don't be blasé about that. Don't treat that like it's nothing. It's a lot. And make that moment special. That's one of those moments where the initial conversion happens. I mean, the second they start a private show, that's one of those moments where you can change everything about the trajectory of their relationship. And so if you're kind of just chatting and being friendly in open chat, and then the private show starts, and you go, oh, cool, thanks. What do you want to see? You'd have to really know your customer for that to be the right thing, because it's almost never the right thing. They deserve, once they've paid you, some emotional boost, some high energy, something that causes them to go, yeah, like that's what you need to have happen as soon as they do. Pavlov's dog. Ring a bell, feed the dog. Ring a bell, feed the dog. Ring a bell, feed the dog. Eventually, ring a bell, the dog salivates. Wow, psychology is so fun, right? The customer spending is ringing. Yeah, the customer spending is them ringing the bell. You praising them in some capacity is you feeding them. And they'll come to, they crave the food. Yeah, there we go. And you want to train them to ring the bell. There we go. Let's just use that. Got a little off on Pavlov's thing. But you want to form a positive association. If you smoke a cigarette, nicotine receptors, blah, blah, you feel this mild euphoria from the nicotine. You get addicted to that instantly. And then you start to associate feeling that you need with smoking, and you become addicted to it. A lot of things that cause some kind of endorphin release, you can get addicted to. You crave them. Customers get that exact same thing when they spend money. It's an exciting thing that they do, that they feel a rush when they do it. You want them to feel that rush more when they do it than less. So anything you can do that makes them feel more hyped, more whatever feeling they're feeling that's provoking them to do the show, you want them to feel more of that at that time. And so in a good scenario, you know a little bit about them from the transactional conversation you had. You kind of know where things are going. If it just is a random show and you don't know that, now you figure out. But you want them to feel better from the spending thing having happened. Again, just manipulatively so that they get hooked to spending money on you, because that's how it happens. But from there, the question on their mind is, am I gonna get what I'm hoping I'm gonna get from having engaged in this transaction? And you don't want to do anything that'll make them go, oh, I'm not. Everything they were saying for the last 5 minutes was just bullshit. They just wanted to get me to press the button, and they're not who I think they are. Customers will feel that and still continue with the show. They'll still try and see if they can recover it. And this is what a lot of models miss. The person wants the show to be successful. They want you to win. They want you to make money on cam, because that means they're getting what they want. Right? I want the restaurant I'm going to get cash from me at the end of it, because it means that they brought me food and I ate it. Like, customers engaging in transactions are, equally attached to that transaction happening successfully as you are. And that's obvious in everything besides camming. Models miss this a lot. If I type my credit card information onto a site and I press the button to buy something and the transaction fails, I go, damn it, I wanted that thing, hence me doing all this fucking shit to get that thing. Most performers, and this is embedded in the culture of cam models, Most performers think that a private show is you having tricked someone into giving you some money, and that it's the thing that's happening in a private show is you're getting money from a customer, and that's what matters. And you just hope to string them along long enough to keep getting that money. That's not what's happening. You can treat it like that and be that way. You'll probably have a harder time making those connections. They want something when they're doing it. They're hoping to feel the thing. They're hoping to have some kind of experience. You want them to have that experience, because whatever dollars you're getting from them on this first show, what happens after that matters a lot more. Meaning, repeat customers are what make models' careers successful, and so you want to blow their mind on the first show. You want them, or at least you want them to leave going, I got what I was hoping from that. This was a success to me. And again, it's always different with every single customer. Every person's different in what they value and what experience they're hoping to have. But like you as a model, what you want to be having happen is you want them to not forget you, and you want them to not feel that they were duped somehow. And so the easiest thing to do to avoid that is have an erotic experience. If they have a well-defined thing that they're like, this is my thing and this is the thing I'm into, can we do this thing? You could do that. Like that, you probably that's the right thing to do. But never follow instructions to the T. Like whatever they're into, like bring your own spin to that. Add your own things into it. For sure. But like, have your first show with someone be epic. Try and come up with the most epic show that you possibly can, and like go balls to the wall on it, because that is the thing that will get them to want to do a second show. And like, you should make that a special experience. The praise part is important. And when I'm saying the word praise, I just sort of mean something that makes them go, yes, spending money on this person was good. That was what I should have done. They said I should do it. I felt maybe I should do it. I did do it, and now I went, I'm right. That was the right thing to do. Spend money on this person. Whether, some people like praise. Other people would be totally, offended if you were praising them, and they'd see it as a huge turnoff. Maybe they want you to insult them, right? Like, whatever it is. Give them that boost when the show starts. And then from there, you're the architect of creating this experience. And try and just have the maximum amount of good from the customer's perspective in show number one. And so it's rarely the right thing to do to try and angle for the show to be as long as possible the first time. This totally depends on the customer, but much more often than not, it's the case that if you're just trying to make that 11-minute show a 15-minute show, you're taking the shirt off as slow as you can to like, you might make an 8-minute show a 9-minute show, and you'll have one 9-minute show and all of the wealth that comes from that one 9-minute show. Having an awesome 7-minute show, that's where the money is at, because like the first one being quick and awesome, and then being like, that was great. They'll go, this person's reliable. Like, we just had a 9-minute show, and it was like the best 9 minutes I've ever spent on the site. They're up to the top of the list of model I'm going to see next time I come onto the site. Guess what? It's not always going to happen in 9 minutes. Not because on show 2 you go, I'm going to make it 30 this time. Just because they like the excitement of having a first time experience with someone versus a second time experience versus a third time experience, like the length of sex changes, the length of erotic experience changes, and the things that the person's interested in doing grow as more and more shows happen. So you really want to think in terms of audience building, which is everything, not how to make the first show, 3 minutes longer or 20 minutes longer or whatever. How do you make the first show so amazing and memorable that this person will never forget you for the rest of their life? And then once you've done that, and I mean, sometimes that means ending the show, like getting them to where you needed them to be, where they need to be, to where they're satisfied. A lot of times that's orgasm. With a bunch of other types of shows, it could be something different. Each one has its trigger, and I'm not going to list all of them off right now because this video is certainly long enough. But making it a success, a successful first show. And you taking the responsibility of saying, I'm going to make this the best show that I possibly can. I'm really going to swing for the fences on it. From there, a lot of models will try to do a good show, and that's kind of where things end. Here, I'm going to try to do this last part quick because it's been a long video. Here's where the rest of it goes from there. Once you've had a successful first show, you have a fresh conversion of a member in your audience. And they're like this little seedling in the dirt, and everything you should be doing now is making sure they blossom into the beautiful flowers that they are. And so don't let things end from first show being done. Make sure the second show happens as soon as possible after that. And like by the time the first show's done, a story has been built. And so I'm just going to reference that story because I know it's different for every model, it's different for every customer, it's different for every model-customer pairing. But there's a story now after the first event. There's all these things that have happened, all these words that have been exchanged, all these experiences that have been shared. Like, we have data now, we have information. They know you, you know them, you'd recognize each other, let's say. And we're no longer complete strangers. All right, so now we're in the early stages of we have a relationship with each other. And everything is going swimmingly so far. What a lot of people do is cease communication entirely. And that's just not great. Like, this is where you, the model, turn it into a real relationship. Turn them into an actual client. You've done everything right up to this point to have had a successful show. Here's what happens next. Seduce them. Send them a message when you're offline, when they're offline, whatever medium you use that through. Make sure you have some way to contact them. If messaging through the site is good enough, fine. If they say yes, send me a message through the site. Say, can I send you a message? And they'll say yes. Or what's a better way for me to send you a message? And they'll say this. Or you can say, do you have Twitter? Do you have Snapchat? Do you have Instagram? Whatever shit you're on. Ask them if they check their messages on the site. And if they say yes, say, cool. And then send them a message later. You can tell them you're going to send them a message. You can, whatever. Like, make sure it's known at the end of this first interaction that there's more to be discussed. That I'm not done with you, nor are you with me. There's more we're going to do here. And then make plans for the second date, let's say. And that second date can just be communicating. To make plans for the second date and that communication. Like, the next interaction, this is where things get really, really important. If you do this right, the frequency with which someone goes from first spend to second spend goes up a lot. A lot of people will do a good show the first time, but then just life happens. You're not online for a couple of days or whatever, they're not online for a couple of days, and one interaction, in a lot of cases, isn't going to be mind-blowing enough that you'll never forget that person ever. Like, I'm just going back through the archives. Yeah, the level at which you have to perform in your first private show to people, to where they'll remember you a year later and think that private show was just insane, is like physically unsustainable to do in every private show. It's just impossible. And maybe your personality is so overwhelming to people that you make them feel something that strong that they will do that. It's a good outcome to shoot for, but let's assume that maybe we're limited to what's entirely possible in one private show. And so structure making that next interaction happen, because if you don't, you're just relying on having been the most awesome thing ever, that they won't ever forget you, and that they'll also have the self-management capacity to make themselves come back and see you again. The most likely thing is they're going to go on with their lives and never see you again. You don't want that to happen. Nor do they, but it's going to happen unconsciously without anyone attempting to. That's just how the course of things go. If you'll interrupt that process and make a conscious, intentional effort to say, let's interact again, and both parties go, sure, and then you do, and the feelings are still there, you win. I think in this system, you should be going for the third interaction. That's what you want to get people to. The third transactional interaction. The third show. The third time that they're in your room and spend money. Once you've done 3, the things will take the course naturally from there. You've won the client. But viewing it as 3 shows instead of just getting that first sale will really impact how many clients you actually win. You'll realize that if I'm trying to get them to do 3 private shows instead of 1, the way you behave in each show is going to be different. You want the first show to be great, so they want a second one. You want the second one to be great, so they want a third one. Yes, also you want the third one to be great. But like every show, if they end up doing hundreds of shows, aren't going to be the most mind-blowing shows ever. And by the way, they don't need to be. Every cigarette a person smokes that's addicted isn't the greatest cigarette ever. They can chase the high of the early excitement they had with you in those first shows forever. Great. Long term, the relationship has turned into just a regular relationship. And so the shows become whatever the shows become. That's up to you, and that's up to them. You guys will discuss that. I don't think you really need insight from me on that. But yeah, thinking of it for 3 shows. Make the first one awesome. Make plans at the end of the first one, or at some point in the first one, for the second one. Carry those plans out and be specific with it. Maybe it's the first one, and then you are messaging back and forth for a couple of days, then the second one happens. You don't have to rush them to the second one. You just have to make sure you're keeping them engaged to bring them to the second one. Even if it takes weeks or whatever, that's fine. But you need them to have the second one. And then from the second one, get to the third one. And at whatever length of time that takes is totally fine. Obviously, if they show up every 6 months, you're not chatting with them every single day between it. You'll always self-regulate on that part. As soon as you feel that you're talking to someone way too much for what they're contributing, then you dial it back. But getting to that third interaction, boom, there we go, done with that part. Because then you've won the client, and then they're in the audience. And so how many people have you had 3 private shows with? Let's say that that's the size of your audience. If it's 1, audience of 1, that's better than 0. But also in considering that, how many people do you have first shows with that then do second shows? How many people do you have second shows with that then do third shows? And again, the funnel is like a V. Like, you'll start with a lot that come into your room. Then some amount will engage with you. Then some smaller amount will actually convert into a show. Then some smaller amount will do a second show. Then some smaller amount will do a third show. But once you get to that third show, the people there will do a lot more shows statistically. They will continue to do shows for the long term. It will become a part of what they do. You'll be a part of their world, and all the fun, cool stories that we tell about camming, all the things I try to convince people of that exist, it happens after the third show. Plan to the third show. There we go. I think I'm just make this video that. Plan to the third show. But if you have a lot of first shows and not a lot of second shows, you're doing the first show wrong. Could it be anything besides that? Could there be another explanation besides you're doing the first show wrong? If you don't have a lot of second shows, and if you don't have a lot of third shows, something went wrong in the second show. But like the drop off between first to second show, way higher, way higher than the drop off from second to third show. People lose a ton from that, and even if you're doing everything right, a lot of people will do a first show and not come back for a second. You're not going to get 100% to jump to the second show. You might lose 90% going to the second show, and then of the people that got there, 60% will do the third show or something like that. And I'm just making those numbers up completely, but like that's anecdotally that's how it goes. Everyone's numbers are kind of different on that. So you want to get to that third show, and then from there, be a decent human being, and everything will be fine. I don't think I'm ever gonna make a video about here's how you solve 9 months in when this thing happens. Like, it's just, I could make one video for one person if I knew their situation very well, and maybe it would help. Can't address any of that stuff long term. It's just human relationships at that point. And so I hope that in this you've been able to see that like that's a real thing, and that you're never going to get people to do 3 shows reliably that are just sexual and nothing else. It's a little easier for guys to be able to do that, but even them, it's hard to maintain customers and maintain interest when it's only sex. You have to make something more interesting than that go on. And if you will, you'll have an easier time getting people to 3 shows. And just remember that they want 3 shows. They want to have that experience where they are compelled enough by you to come back and do more shows with you. They want to have the first show. They want you to make them want to do a show with you. Like, it feels good. They want to feel good. They want to feel good a second time and a third time. To find something that reliably makes you feel good and makes you excited is worth so much more than the money customers spend on cam models. And like, you're not tricking people into giving you money. You're providing something that people value extremely highly, and will continue to value even more and more highly as you get better at understanding that. The models who have the easiest time winning the biggest clients and keeping them are the models that sort of intuitively understand everything I just said. And so if you listened to all that and you believed it, that makes sense. You're in good shape already. You just got to go do the work now and get people to go 3 shows with you. It's hard, but that's the work. So this is episode 4. Good night.